for me and for us on the humanitarian side, the climate change is not a future threat, it's a current problem. Because what we can see is that there are more disasters and there are more intense disasters. In other words, worse floods, more floods, worse droughts, more droughts, worse hurricane seasons and cyclone seasons. I mean, you have to talk about the trends. You can't say any one particular event is necessarily caused by climate change. It's not possible to make that kind of link. But the trends are pretty clear, and I've seen, a large number of African ministers, Asian ministers who come into my office and said, of course we've had floods before, but never like this, and never in this unpredictable way, and never at this season before. And the farmers don't know what to do. When are they supposed to plant their crops because they don't know when it's going to rain anymore? Mm-hmm. And these are problems which are happening right now and causing huge distress. And I think if you look around Europe and look at some of the recent floods and forest fires, you may think there's even some link there. I mean, again, it's hard to make any causal link, but certainly the weather seems to be changing. It's not just a question of warming, it's the patterns changing in different ways. So these are real consequences that are there now. So unless we address those very quickly, then those problems are going to get worse. Now the reality is that whatever is agreed in Copenhagen about emissions, the consequences of climate change are already with us and are going to get worse for the next 50 years. I say whatever is agreed in Copenhagen because the damage is already partly done. So we're going to have to face these humanitarian consequences of climate change. One of them may be that as the sea level rises in the next 20, 30, 50 years, as these disasters get worse, more people are going to start moving because where they live is no longer sustainable because of drought or because of floods or because of sea level rise. For example, the Bangladesh Delta, there are 50 million people live in an area which could effectively disappear. Where are those people going to go? There's no room in Bangladesh for them. So these are some real problems which need to be there. So one of the issues is also that in Copenhagen they need to talk not just about cutting emissions, that is fundamental, but also about helping countries to adapt to the current consequences of climate change. In other words, what I've just been talking about. And that means there needs to be a proper adaptation fund. And that means we need to do a lot more to reduce the impact of disasters before they happen. We know they're going to happen. We don't quite know where or when or how, but we know they're going to happen, and countries need to take action to reduce the impact of them before they do.
Mm-hmm. Is the climate situation going to lead to new conflicts?
Well, yes, I think in short the answer is yes, but again, you don't know quite how. It is perfectly, I think, arguable that part of the causes of the conflict in Darfur, not the main cause perhaps, but part of it is indeed climate change. In other words, that there is desertification happening. The grazing land, agricultural land is reducing as the desert spreads in that part of Africa, and that is causing conflict between farmers and pastoralists who are trying to graze their herds, and that is part of the underlying causes of the conflict that's there. It's perfectly possible to envisage conflict about migration. It's perfectly possible to envisage conflict about arguments over land and over water, particularly. Water is possibly the most critical issue we may face in the next 100 years. And so the possibilities of conflict there, if we're not intelligent, I hope we will be, are certainly there.
Yeah.